I always count myself in. Maybe one day I'll like show like all the talking that I do before I like actually, because I edit so much, so all the like pre-talking that I do to like hype myself up before I film. Maybe this probably will be the video. Anyway, so hi guys, welcome to Natasha's Narrative. If you've been here before, welcome back. So there's so many videos that I really need to get to and make, pain and suffering. The light just dimmed from my face. Like, what is that? Middle of filming. Be honest, I have to be honest, because I promise I'll be honest.
He used to be so racist, but he was black himself. I don't understand that.
But yeah, that's how I got into 3 medical schools out of 4. I was getting so rude with scriptures regarding anger. Hi guys, welcome to Natasha's Narrative. If you've been here before, welcome back. So I've got so many videos that I really want to make, because obviously we know I have not been on it. There are even videos from first year that I really need to get to stepping on, but I thought I would start with like the things that are actually fresh in my mind. So I thought I would kind of talk. Ooh. You see the weight I put on, I'm even unfit, I can't even breathe. Oh my gosh. I thought I would talk about first my first block that I did, my first rotation at the hospital, and just talk about like the type of things that like I've learnt and like what I feel like would be helpful to have known before I started that block. So when you attend King's and you're a second year medic, you have 4 like hospital blocks. So one is aging, which is basically kind of like Jerry's. One is human development, which you see like women health and kids health. One is supporting life, so that's kind of your cardio, resp, renal stuff. One is information, which I feel like is clear. It's like your inflammatory kind of like diseases. My first rotation was aging. I don't know why I said is, past tense. I can't even speak English anymore. My first rotation was aging. So again, when you go to King's, you kind of get split into like 3 groups. Either you end up at Guy's and St. Thomas's, or you end up at King's College Hospital, or you end up in either Lewisham or Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Yeah, so you end up in one of those 4. So like I said before, I started my aging placement. So you spend 6 weeks actually at hospital. And then one of the weeks, so your first intro week, you never spend at hospital. But what's funny is that, or funny, strange, weird, or whatever it is, whatever block that you're learning at university may not be the block that you actually are doing in hospital. So I started learning human development, but I ended up on the aging block. But the good thing about that was because I went to Newcastle and did a biomed degree, one of my modules was like on aging and like those diseases that you're more likely to get at an older age. So things like dementia, Parkinson's, osteoporosis, things like this I'd already kind of like gone over before in my 3rd year. And obviously because I used to be a caregiver, so that gave me quite a lot of insight as well into patient perspectives. So I spent 2 weeks in a stroke ward. I spent 1 week in an ortho-geriatric ward. So that means that part of it was to do with like ortho, so bones, but it was also geri, so kind of like mixed together. I spent 1 week in a clinic, and then 2 weeks with general geries. The main purpose of King's kind of sending us on placement is to basically improve our skills, mostly in history taking. So taking a history is essentially when you ask patients questions about, why they've come in, what medications they take, stuff about their family history, their social history. So social history is like your lifestyle and many other things. Why is it important to take a history? Because like 70% of the diagnosis essentially can be actually figured out from just taking the history. So it's really important to have like a good structure in your history taking, and that's why King's like are really adamant on us starting, to go to hospital and stuff from 2nd year. So I remember the first history I took, like, I was so ready because I feel like I'm quite good at taking histories, like, not in a cocky way. And I was like, yeah, I've got this, I've got this. And I went to take the history and I literally forgot like 50% of the things, and I was so embarrassed because I was like, oh my gosh, like my questions are not flowing, and I was like panicked because I just felt like I was wasting the patient's time. So I didn't do a very good job, I'm not gonna lie. So one thing I would say, one tip that I've really tried to implement whilst I'm on the wards is to make sure that I do some pre-reading before I go. So Kings will give us a list of the 6 places, or like what we're going to do for that 6 weeks. And I would make sure, like, if I'm going to a stroke ward, I know that I might see other patients that don't, are not recovering from strokes, but I'll make sure to do my research into, you know, the 2 different types of strokes. So, you know, you've got your ischemic and your hemorrhagic, the differences between those, and things like that, treatments, etc. Just because the doctors will kind of, they don't expect you to know everything, but in order to kind of like get the most that you can out of placement, it's always good to kind of have an understanding as to what the language, what type of language you're going to use. So like I said, understanding the different types of strokes, understanding the potential type. Of medication that they may be giving to the patient, it's really good to kind of know what you're going to know, those type of things. And also for the history, you can have what we call like a more focused history. So when you're obviously talking about things like stroke, you might ask about, like, do you feel like your speech has been affected, or, you know, you might ask about paralysis, things like this. So it's important to kind of like have an understanding as to where you're going and what you're potentially going to learn from there. What was my favorite? Oh, I feel so rude saying what my favorite was. Anyway, I really enjoyed the Ortho Jerry's ward, I can't lie. I feel like I learnt so much on that rotation. I actually managed to go downstairs to the emergency department for like a consult. Obviously, I was not doing anything. I was like, I honestly sometimes feel like such a waste of space at placement, but I was just like following them around, but the doctors were like asking me like multiple questions about like, what's this treatment for, what would you expect here, what would you expect there. And like, yes, I'm not gonna lie, it's so scary getting asked questions because you're just like, you don't want to embarrass yourself, but that's the way that you learn. Like, I learn the most when I fail. When I know okay, I never know everything, but when I like do well, like obviously I'm happy for myself, but like it's the times where the doctor's like, oh no, not exactly, it's this, it's that, it's the other, that I'm like, okay, like, let me bank that. So that was definitely my favorite. So like I said, with Ortho Jerry's, a lot of the time, the type of people that we would see were people who had had a hip fracture or a neck of femur fracture. So we, I don't know why I keep on saying we. I really feel like I'm part of this team, guys, I swear. But so the ward, like I said, it wasn't strictly just, you know, people with ortho who fit into Ortho Jerry's that were on that ward. There were also people with other things that were admitted because of other things, sorry. One thing that I would say is really interesting about geriatrics is the fact that like a lot of the patients have comorbidities. So it's seeing how the doctors kind of like weigh up like what medications to give people, understanding like how doctors make those type of decisions, I thought was really interesting. And like I said, with, you know, with age, you tend to be more likely to have comorbidities. It's very rare that you're just going to be admitted. Sorry, you may be admitted because of one thing, but it's very rare that that's the only health issue that you have. So again, kind of dealing with things like bad interactions of the medications that they're taking. Like, it's just it's really fascinating, and it opened my eyes into Jerry's more. It definitely opened my eyes up more, because I think before going in there, like, I was just like, nah, like not really interested in Jerry's at all. But I really enjoyed how complex the cases were. Also the teaching was fantastic. So we had teaching on Parkinson's disease. We had teaching on how to take a neurological history. We had, how to do a neurological exam, which is not one of the exams that we're actually tested on in second year. So it was nice to kind of get insight into that. I'm definitely not very good at taking neurological exams. I have so much practice I need to do, but it was nice to kind of be like taught what to do so that when I'm actually expected to know it, like I don't feel like I'm being thrown in the deep end. What else would I say? Other tips. Always make sure that you have your stethoscope on you. There's always an opportunity on the ward to be able to listen to some chest sounds, some bowel sounds, some lung sounds, and just go for it honestly. Like, you don't have to have do the full examination, but the more that you get used to kind of like doing your little bits of chest, lung, and chest, resp, and abdo, the better that you get at it. So when I was talking to one of the doctors, like, they were just like, even when you're in F1, you're probably not going to feel like you know everything, but like, you need to be safe. So that means that the more sounds that you listen to, the more you're able to kind of distinguish between what doesn't sound normal and what sounds normal. So I was fortunate enough on like one of the again, it was with the Ortho Jerry's. I'm not trying to like hype them up or anything, but I was there. And basically on that ward, I got to listen to two different types of murmurs, and like I could tell that it was definitely not normal, and I could tell that they were both different, but I didn't know what the different types of murmurs were. And that's fine. You don't have to, at my stage, be able to be like, that's aortic stenosis, or that's mitral regurgitation. Like, it's about being able to kind of detect. But obviously, as you kind of get more and more advanced, and the more heart sounds that you listen to, you'll be able to tell the difference. So it's really important to just give it a go. Just be present in placement, honestly. Ask questions, really show interest, even if it's not particularly an area that you thought that you were going to be interested in, or it's an area that you kind of find a bit boring. One thing I would say that I wish I had kind of like spent more time on before I went on the like Jerry ward, was just like doing a bit more research into neuro exams. I know I touched on that, like we ended up learning them, but I wish I kind of like understood them a bit more before I had that teaching. Another thing is like tests like for delirium, so like the 4AT test. I kind of briefly could recall it. I could briefly recall it from my like third year studies, but like I couldn't remember it in totality. So I wish I had taken more advantage of like the notes and information that I had from my previous degree. I did read a little bit and I did go over those notes a little bit, but I wish I'd done a bit more. What else? Yeah, I think I wish I'd been like a bit more braver, a bit more braver. I can't speak English. A bit braver from the beginning, like how I've just been like, push yourselves, guys, like take those histories, take those examinations. The first time I went to awards, I was like a bit kind of nervous. Yes, I did manage to take a history, but it took me a while to kind of work up that courage, and I feel like that's why I freaked out and just like messed up and missed a lot of information that I could have asked, because I had just kind of overwhelmed myself, like because I was just overthinking everything in my head. I think at the end of the day, when you're a medical student, like, this is your time to mess up. Obviously you don't want to do that on purpose, and obviously like not, you have to be safe. Like, you shouldn't be doing things that you don't know how to, you shouldn't be doing stuff if you don't know how to do it, especially when it comes to things like catheterization. I mean, we don't do catheters, or like we don't do catheters yet, but like taking bloods and things like that. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. But I think in terms of like your history structure, like, don't freak out and be like, oh my gosh, like I don't know how to take a history, or like I don't know how, or I've messed up some of this history, so I can't do it, or telling yourself because you can't remember certain questions that you shouldn't take a history. Just take the history, and that's a way that you can improve. So just give it a go. So yeah, those are my main tips. Definitely do work before you go to the ward, like pre-reading the night before. If you know which ward you're going to and what they do there, fantastic. That allows you to have a more focused reading. Have a go. Take, do as many examinations as you can, take as many histories as you can. Don't be scared to ask questions. I know it can be quite daunting. Another thing I would say, actually, especially in regards to Jerry's, is that the MDT is so big, because a lot of the time you'll have things like, your physios on the ward, your speech and language therapist, your occupational therapist as well. So spend time with them. Like, the purpose of like going on ward rounds, or like, doing placement, yes, obviously you spend a lot of time with doctors, that's great, but it's really important to understand like what the other members of the MDT do, and the best way you can do that is by like literally shadowing them and just seeing what they do and just asking them questions. It's really important to value all members of the team equally, and you learn so much from doing that. So I would definitely say do that as well. Oh, and get your sign-offs done as soon as possible. Please don't be that person that you're waiting for the last day to get your sign-offs done. Don't stress yourself out. Do as many sign-offs as you can as soon as possible. So I think a lot of us come into med school, especially us grads, and we're like, yeah, because we're seeing all of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like, we feel like we're more certain about like what we like and what we don't like. Definitely go in with an open mind. Like, I went into Jerry's with a more open mind, having like done my caregiver role, but I still was kind of like, nah, I don't think I'm gonna enjoy that much. Like, especially in comparison to like human development, because I've known for a long time that I'm quite interested in like either obstetrics and gynecology or peds. So I kind of was just like, yeah, like it'll be fine. But I really, really enjoyed my placement. And also, if you get placed like somewhere that's like far away from you, or you don't get the hospital placement that you want, don't be turned off by that either. There's always an opportunity to learn, and just because you're in a smaller hospital doesn't mean that you won't get good chances to learn things and actually have a very fruitful placement. So placement is really, what you put in is what you get out. I've been fortunate enough that like my last 2 placement rotations have been like pretty good, and I've enjoyed them. So just put in energy and you will get good results. I feel like I've become a much more confident medical student on the wards by actually just like making sure I attend my placements and like putting energy into putting effort into like my history taking, making sure that every time I leave a ward round I learn something. So whether that's understanding more abbreviations, understanding what certain drugs do, and doing after placement reading. So that's another thing I would say, is that I try to, after I come home from a placement, to do some reading, either in regards to like something that I'm interested in that I've learned that day, or to do with like something that has confused me that I didn't manage to get like the most amount of clarification from. Or I might end up doing like just some of my like write-up notes for like my mini kex, which I'll explain in a different video, like what these things mean for kings and stuff. But things like that, I tend to try and do that like the day of my placement, just because otherwise you just fall like behind so easily, and I feel like you don't actually end up really like consolidating that knowledge that you've learned from placement. So yeah, that's really been my experience. I feel like I've kept it like quite short and sweet. I probably will make a presentation as well, once I've had like time to reflect and go over my notes as to like what other things I feel like is really good to know before you do like an aging or like Jerry's type placement. If you have any questions, you can hit me up on Natasha's Narrative on my Instagram, or you can write some stuff down in the comments, especially like other videos that you want to see. We'll try and get some vlogs out because I know you guys have been asking, but I'm not gonna lie, I spend so much of my time at home, guys. Like I study from home, so you're going to be very bored, so I'm gonna try and like wait until I'm actually, yeah, if there's a week where I'm going in quite a lot, if there's a week where I'm going in quite a lot, so that you can actually be entertained by the vlog rather than just seeing me and like my laptop and I'm just sitting there pretending to do work, or like, I don't know. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Make sure to watch like my other education videos if you want to know about getting into med. I have a lot of getting into med videos. I'm also going to try and make some more videos on not just hospital stuff, but the actual like medical school lectury type of stuff, and what type of techniques I'm using right now to revise. But yeah, if you want any other types of videos, let me know in the comments, or you can message me on Natasha's Narrative on my Instagram. I'll put all like the links to my social media. I use my Instagram the most. You can message me on the other types, but I am the more active on Instagram. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, and it's been amazing being able to like start making content again. Hopefully this will be consistent now that I feel like I have a bit more time. Yeah, so thank you guys, and there should be another video coming out the week after this, hopefully. So bye, enjoy the rest of your week.